Visuals. Dramatic slow-motion shot of a bride's train dragging down an aisle. Music. Eerie, building tension. Picture this. You're standing at the entrance to your wedding. The music starts, the doors swing open. And your father, the man who's supposed to give you away, takes one look at you, sees your face and walks away. Just turns and bolts. That's how my wedding day started. But that wasn't even the nuclear bomb my family tried to drop. No, the real villain was already waiting outside, dressed in white, convinced she was the main event. This isn't just a story about a bad wedding. It's a story about a lifetime of calculated cruelty, a masterclass in manipulation, and a revenge plot so delicious, it paid for the entire ceremony. My name is OP, and this is how my husband and I turned my sister's ultimate humiliation into the best wedding gift I ever received. You won't believe the lengths they went to. And how we beat them at their own sick game. The Golden Child and the Ghost. Visuals. Split screen, happy, idealized photos of a sister contrasting with solitary, dark images of a younger girl. Focus on unequal gifts, attention, and isolation. My whole life felt like an audition I was born to fail. Ever since I can remember, there was the favorite, my sister, and there was me. This wasn't subtle favoritism. It was a brazen, undeniable preference. If she threw a punch, I was punished for being there. My birthday cake had to be her favorite flavor. Her accomplishments were boasted about at every family dinner. Mine, if they were acknowledged at all, were dismissed with a shrug. Why celebrate? You always do well. My parents, to this day, act like they're clueless about this imbalance. But it was the air I breathed. As we grew older, the dynamic curdled from neglect to open hostility. My sister, the Golden Child, found herself friendless, and for some twisted reason, she decided my happiness was the cause. My friends became her new targets. She'd accuse them of anything, stealing being bad influences, and my parents would simply ban me from seeing them. Why are you trying to leave us? Why can't you be like your sister and enjoy family time? It was isolation, pure and simple, and it started early in my teens. The only thing that saved me was my extended family. At a gathering, I was asked why I couldn't come to a cousin's get-together. My unfiltered, suffering teenage self blurted out the truth. Because I'm not allowed to have friends since my sister doesn't have any. That moment, that raw truth, hit the adults like a lightning bolt. My parents were reportedly torn apart, but the fallout, a month of grounding for lying, was worth it. The pressure from the outside world forced them to grant me a sliver of freedom. Visuals. Quick cuts illustrating suspicion and betrayal, focusing on the sisters' over-the-top, failed seduction attempts. Then a contrast. A shabby college versus a prestigious-looking one. 3:30 to 6 o'clock. The moment I brought my first boyfriend home, my sister saw a new threat. She tried to flirt with him, wearing ridiculous clothes, spewing lies about how awful I was. When he ran to tell me, she immediately spun the tale. He was the predator, she was the innocent victim. Guess who they believed? My boyfriends became a revolving door of conniving bastards and horrible boys, according to my sister's relentless accusations. She'd try, they'd refuse, she'd accuse, my parents would believe. And the relationship would die under the weight of the scrutiny. I was being set up to be perpetually alone, perpetually scrutinized. Then came the grand finale of their favoritism. The college ultimatum. My sister, whose grades were mediocre, was accepted to an average college. My parents proudly announced they'd pay for everything. I was relieved she'd be gone, but the reprieve was short-lived. A year later, as I approached graduation, my mother sat me down. "Since we're paying for your sister's college, we have no money for yours," she said, deadpan. My only option was to work immediately, wait until my sister finished, and maybe then they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I stayed at home, rent, bills, and all my expenses. They even claimed they would decide if any college was worth me getting a loan, citing my bad judgment as their reason for this caring decision. They were expecting a tantrum. They were expecting a breakdown. What they got was a blank look and a calm okay. Part 3. The Secret Weapon and the Man Who Loves Drama. Visuals. A montage of intense, focused studying. Then a warm, genuine photo of OP and her husband. Music. Shifts from somber to determined and slightly mischievous. 6 to 8:30. They underestimated me. All those years of isolation weren't spent wallowing. They were spent studying. I knew deep down that my freedom depended on a piece of paper they couldn't control. My college application wasn't an option. It was my escape route. I worked my ass off and I got a full scholarship to a respectable university. I didn't tell them until the last minute, announcing it on social media at the same time I told them directly. They couldn't forbid it without explaining to the rest of the family why they were stopping a fully funded education. The door was open and I walked through it. College was my salvation. That's where I met the architect of vengeance. My husband. I'm the person who cries when she's angry. The timid doormat who replays confrontations in her head. He's the clapback king, the guy who loves drama because he loves to solve it. When he's slighted, he doesn't forgive and forget. He just starts stewing on something bigger, better, and worse for revenge. People were baffled we were together, but I loved that he could do what my family had conditioned me not to. When we decided to marry, prioritizing a European honeymoon over a fancy ceremony, the immediate question was, of course, the parents. I was hesitant, but my husband was stoked. He showed up to the meeting with my family alone, and with a hidden, high-quality recorder. He was ready for the usual flirting attempts, ready to expose her, but what they offered was so much more delicious. Visuals. A close-up of the husband's euphoric grin, then a chaotic, childish drawing of a woman in a wedding dress running down the aisle. Music. Light, conspiratorial, and a bit frantic. 8:30 to 10:45. My husband came back from that meeting absolutely euphoric, grinning ear to ear. Babe, you won't believe the awful shit they wanted. We can fuck them over so bad. What was the demand? My parents proclaimed they would pay for my wedding. On one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle first in a wedding dress and essentially have her own mini-wedding inside mine. Their excuse. It wasn't fair for the younger sister to marry first. Even my sister would have the full experience, pictures, and a cake. My husband's mind short-circuited. This wasn't just favoritism. It was an act of psychological warfare so bizarre it was genius. But then the little devil on his shoulder whispered, "String these fucks along." He told them he needed to think about it. And he ran out of there before he could give away his nefarious plans. This wasn't just about my parents paying for a wedding anymore. This was about justice. This was back pay for a lifetime of emotional damages. We briefly considered extreme options, but we eventually settled on a safer, but perfectly humiliating plan. Pretend to agree, milk them for everything, and then hire security to physically block the sister on the day. Part 5. The deception and the emotional back pay. Visuals. A cinematic montage of wedding planning, menu tasting, florist, dress shopping, but with whispering, shifty eyes and close-ups of inflated price tags. 10:45 to 13:30. My husband returned, acting conflicted. He said I'd never go for it, that I was too controlling and distrustful to be surprised. A brilliant dig that used their own words against them. But he claimed he was willing to help them pull it off to keep the family intact. He suggested a compromise. They pay for the most expensive parts, which would put pressure on me not to throw a tantrum in public because of the sheer cost. My parents looked surprised. My grown sister, however, started skipping with joy, literally like a child. The plan was accepted. Crucially, my husband invented the condition that nothing could ever be put in writing. Why? Because I, the neurotic, controlling fiancé, checked his phone constantly for cheating. They bought it hook, line, and sinker, completely sealing their fate. For months, we were master manipulators. They wanted input. They got it. We'd go to the venue, select the cheapest menu. And then my husband would secretly take my sister backside and say it was a shame we couldn't get the best options. Cue my sister demanding they pay for the most expensive package. Photographer, flowers, everything. They demanded to pay for the top-tier options to ensure their humiliation of me was as extravagant as possible. We, the couple who genuinely considered a courthouse wedding, were now getting an unbelievably expensive, no-expense-spared wedding, and we were spending barely a dime. It was the best kind of emotional back pay. Part 6. Wedding Day, the Unveiling. Visuals. Rapid cuts between the sister getting ready in a wedding dress off-site, the parents looking smug, and then the final confrontation at the venue door. Music. Dramatic, climactic score. 13:30 to 17:30. The day arrived. Our sister's plan, worked out with my parents and husband, was simple. The bride is always late. Wait for everyone to be seated, then send her down the aisle at the precise moment I was supposed to enter. By the time I heard the commotion, it would be too late. But we had a secret guest, security. A big, silent bodyguard type, hired and tipped handsomely to only stop one person. My sister. The instruction was clear. Refuse her entry. Claim she must be at the wrong venue because there was already a bride. As the text came in that my sister was less than 5 minutes away, my father stood up at the entrance, waiting for the signal to send his other daughter down the aisle. The bridal song started, the doors opened. And there I was. My father looked aghast. He searched behind me, panicked. Then his phone rang. It was her. He looked at me, mumbled. Something came up, and abandoned me at the altar. Gasps filled the room. But my husband and I had rehearsed this too. A friend in on the plan shouted, "What did he mean it wasn't supposed to be you?" and ran out, ensuring maximum chaos and stalling the parents. My husband's father ran up, took my arm and walked me down the aisle. Whispers followed me, but I didn't care. I reached my husband, who quickly joked about my Oscar-worthy teary face, and we began the ceremony. The parents never came back. Visuals. A triumphant shot of the couple at the altar. Then, a quick flash of the sister on the ground, weeping, surrounded by angry family. Music. Triumphant, celebratory. 17:30 to 2000 hours. What happened outside was the stuff of legend. A chaotic scene of pure, unadulterated justice. My sister arrived in her wedding dress, only to be met by the hulking security guard. He calmly told her she was at the wrong wedding. My dad showed up, tried to threaten him with the police, but the security guard hired by us simply agreed, confirming he was just doing his job. My husband arrived on the scene, summoned by a panicked parent. He put on the best confused, appalled face he had and denied everything. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, as he later put it. When they insisted he agreed to the plan, he demanded proof. Of course there was none. They could only point to their lack of a paper trail, which he simply laughed off. Wow, how convenient, huh? Why would I ever agree to something so completely fucked up? The sister, stripped of her moment, her money and her dignity, was on the floor, kicking and screaming like the spoiled toddler she was. My father turned purple. My mother was sobbing. All the extended family who came out to check the drama were aghast, tearing into my parents for their vile plan. No one believed the trio. After years of being accused, berated, and dismissed, my parents were finally getting a taste of their own medicine. Their word without proof meant nothing. They were forced to leave, disgraced and humiliated, with my father dragging his tantrum, throwing daughter away from my magnificent, expensive, and completely free wedding. We had the blast of a lifetime. The money, the extravagant party, the perfect revenge. It was all worth the years of suffering. My husband, the hero of the hour, followed up a few days later by compiling all their frantic, unhinged texts, including my sister's messages blaming him as a two-faced snake and hoping he'd cheat on me, and broadcasting it all to the family group chat. He begged our family to stop the harassment and prevent them from ruining our honeymoon, adding one final delicious petty line. Please don't share our location, to avoid my parents sending my sister over and then claiming he had somehow agreed to pretend to f*ck her in our honeymoon suite. They haven't bothered us since. I didn't get a normal, loving family at my wedding, but I got the next best thing. Justice, and the most satisfying revenge I could have ever dreamed of.